You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
With the magic of radio, we are inside the vehicle driven by Dave McDivitt. Law, how fast are you going, buddy?
I am now going 65 miles per hour, which is the posted speed limit.
Legal advice at 65 miles an hour. This is a first, I think, buddy.
Maybe 66.
66. All right, and then the question obviously is,
Let's call it 66.
What does Dave McDivitt drive? Are you like Better Call Saul? Do you rock an old Saturn?
No, you know what I'm driving? I drive an SUV now. I had a sedan for years. I always had a big Mercedes sedan. I love that car. And I've just always kind of had a big sedan. I could fit my kids in the back seat, and if I'm driving clients or staff to court, I could put files in the back. It was a great car. The problem with it was on the weekends, I always had an SUV that the nannies would use to take the kids around, or if they'd go see their mom for a weekend, so she could have a safe car for the kids. Well, the problem is then the weekends are sometimes when I need to get some stuff done. Go to Home Depot, get some lumber, because I do construction stuff, and I'm a real man. And so I didn't have a good, I don't have a truck. I'm not that man enough. So I have an SUV now. So I have a flaming red Mercedes SUV.
Woo! That sounds about right. That sounds about right for Mr. McDivitt. Well, cool, man. Before you get
It's got a little spice to it.
And we start to conquer some of the questions from some of the listeners. One thing we haven't had a chance to discuss because it happened shortly after our last visit. And then, of course, you had to miss things that way to move things from last week. But we've not discussed the slap heard around the world when Will Smith knocked the crap out of Chris Rock. In regards to
just got punched by Muhammad Ali.
Basically, right? He's a much bigger guy. Obviously, a big bully.
That's what he said after.
It was unsolicited. It was obvious who was the perpetrator and who was the guy getting slobber knocked.
It's a crime.
He did not. Yeah. He did not press charges, though. Does that mean he's done as far as liable? Can he still get money? Will he get money from Will Smith? Do you think?
Those are totally separate issues. So when you talk about pressing charges, you're talking about because pressing charges in its traditional sense involves asking the police or the district attorney to push charges on somebody for a criminal act. And they look. You could not the people. The district attorney might still decide to press charges unilaterally. But if you don't have a cooperative witness, the person who was hit, not witness, but victim, they're not going to probably do that. And Chris Rock said, "Look, I don't want to make a big issue about this. Please don't arrest the guy," because they were prepared to arrest Will Smith right there. The police were there. But that is a totally separate issue than suing somebody for the same act, but conduct can be both criminal and a violation under civil statutes, under civil law. And so in that sense, Chris Rock can still sue Will Smith for any number of things. Most, battery would be one of them, actually hitting him, hurting him. He would, to be successful in a lawsuit like that, though, Chris is going to have to show some damages. And it doesn't necessarily mean physical damages. He broke my jaw. Well, from every account I have, Chris Rock is physically okay. Pride might have taken a hit. Right. But his damages may have to do with, reputational, the embarrassment, that factor. He may, I don't know whether he's going to do it. My gut is maybe he's not, because he seems to have come out of this the better person in that sense. Reputationally, I think. Go ahead.
The reason I brought this up in the first place is one of his stand-up events, shortly after it, he had said, "I'm not going to talk about it until I get paid." And I was like, oh, wow, he's going to seek some kind of a ramification. But I thought to myself, if you didn't press charges, you can't go through with a lawsuit. And I didn't realize that could also be picked up. So the DA of L.A. could actually arrest Will Smith for assault if he wanted to, or she wanted to, whatever it is.
Yeah, they could, because, those crimes are, they represent the people. There's a victim, but ultimately a district attorney is representing the people of Los Angeles County, for example.
Wow.
Now, that said, they've got a lot of crimes to prosecute. This one was an obvious crime and a very vocal and unwilling victim to press charges. I don't really see the DA doing anything then at that point. But so I hadn't heard that about Chris Rock. By the way, I'm driving on I-25 I'm on Fontanero Street now. If you're listening to Kilo and you see me driving by in a red SUV, go ahead and honk. Unless you're the
honk,
police.
or just let him through. He's in a hurry. Also, I want you to honk every time you see yourself on the side of a bus on the way in this morning.
No, I'm not going to do that.
You wouldn't be able to hear.
I don't think the buses are on the highway right now.
Oh, well, that's very interesting in regards to the rock case. Now, as far as
I mean, that's true, but and look, that happens in lower profile cases as well. I mean, you've got you might have a domestic issue where one spouse attacks the other one night. They've been drinking. The other one, the one who was victimized, calls the police. The police come. They arrest the abuser, and then later, the victim says, "I don't want to prosecute. I don't want to push these charges, and I'm not going to cooperate. I'm not going to show up in court." And usually then they're forced to basically dismiss it because if you don't have a cooperative witness or victim, it's really difficult to press these charges forward. So now the thing with Chris Rock and Will Smith is you have a universe of people, literally the entire world, witnessed this.
Right.
So it's not as if we don't know that it happened. We know that it happened, but I just think that from a PR perspective, it's something that they're probably not going to prosecute. But interesting. So Chris Rock has indicated he might sue.
Yeah, he has said, I'm not going to talk about until I get paid. And I was like, I bet he will get a handful of stacks from that Will Smith fortune. Now, and to show you how interested you would be into the case. So if Chris Rock stood in a field and said, hey, first lawyer to come and touch me gets to take this case when we sue Will Smith, how fast would you run toward him? A 1, which is just a slow meander, or a 10, which is a dead sprint?
Well, you're assuming that I'm not already there because I've Velcroed myself to his clothes.
But a home run, you think, for whoever represents him?
Kind of joking there. Well, I think it's a strong case.
Yeah.
I really do. It's a strong case. It's not without some challenges, but it's also one that I think would probably get resolved without a lot of prolonged litigation. It's not going to be in court for very long.
Yeah,
I think that's something that Will would want to button up.
I was going to say the Smith family probably wants that to go away real quick.
Very quickly.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
I am a convicted felon because my lawyer was this guy. Oh. This guy. Found him on found him in a bathroom. It was one of those pull-off things. Need a good lawyer. Should have found you, buddy. I'd be in a lot better place right now.
I was in the other stall. What were you doing?
Dave McDivitt in the house. How was the drive, buddy?
Ross, it was good. It was
amazing. We were live in the vehicle. I do that every year on the way to stuff the truck. Sports at 65 miles an hour.
No, it's cool. I mean, the technology's amazing, and it's
really
good to be. So I'm back in the studio. You guys can start rubbernecking. Stop rubbernecking, trying to find my red car.
Looking for the red Mercedes.
That's right.
We got a couple questions via the email. You can always email us your questions through the website for the Law Frog. We'll talk smokes and the fact this guy is pissed he has to throw his ID every single day. What else? Let's get to Rocky real quick. You said we might not have a smoking gun answer,
but
let's
find out. Yeah,
put him in the right direction. So, Rocky, I'm going to try to break this down as best I can. You are, you work in sheet metal, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you do piecework, which basically he's an independent contractor. He gets paid by the job, but his business he works for is kind of flexing him in and out of this position when it benefits them. Sometimes he doesn't get paid per piece. He gets paid hourly, but when the hours are too much, they'll put him back to pieceworker to save them having to pay him full price. There's something wrong going on, Dave.
Yeah, it does. And so, Rocky, you said you are a W-2 employee of this company?
You're a W-2 employee, is that right?
I am a W-2 employee.
Okay. All right, but yet then they change your how are they communicating to you that they're changing your status from W-2 employee to an independent contractor or a pieceworker? How do they explain that to you? Or communicate that to you?
Like I showed up at work this morning and I'm no longer a pieceworker. I'm back to a hourly worker.
Because it's a slow day.
This is a little...
We're not slow. We're plenty busy.
Yeah.
I'm just the one that's care of these technical problems.
But you would make more money today being a piece worker than you would being on the clock, and they're putting you on the clock because you're going to make less money. Is that right?
I take $500 to $1,000 a cut per week when I have to clock in. Plus, they don't pay my health insurance, and I'm paying for all my own vehicle, my own insurance, my own tools, stuff like that.
All right. This is tricky. So, look, Rocky, and for anybody who's listening, I'm not going to be able to give you a super clear answer given my understanding of these facts right now. I'm going to recommend, as I would anybody in this situation, if you're concerned about this, the kind of lawyer you want to work for or you want to call to help you out with this would be an employment attorney. Plaintiff's.
But your lawyer's spidey sense, where's it going on this? Is something wrong?
Oh, yeah, it does sound kind of suspicious. I mean, usually, look, if you've got a W-2 employee as a company of virtually any size, there are going to be regulations that dictate what kind of, the labor laws dictate what you're supposed to do as far as how you pay them, when you pay them, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. If you're offering health insurance, the provisions of who is then entitled to participate in that health insurance. And it sounds like, just from what you've said, they're just kind of all over the place here, and it doesn't sound legitimate. There's a practical issue here too, which is, you can try to bring a claim against them. You can refer them to the Department of Labor here in Colorado.
Have you just asked them, saying, why are you doing this? How do you justify this?
I don't get an appropriate answer. Yeah. I ask them. It's been a long fight for years and
Sing
years,
and dance.
and I never get an appropriate answer.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Song and dance.
A lot of jazz hands there. No, and this is where I'm getting at the practical perspective. I mean, if you've got to be prepared to kind of abandon this position if you're going to take, if you make a claim against them, they're not supposed to retaliate, not necessarily supposed to lose your job because of it. But, you're in the kind of industry where I just don't know how that's going to play out for you. And so I do recommend that you get in touch with somebody because you've got these questions. I'd like you to have the answers for that.
And a lot of lawyers do the free consultation. So you want to, we're going to put you on hold. We'll give you a name off air. Rocky, give you another place to go and maybe ask a couple questions. But you definitely does sound like something. It's greasy. There's something greasy going on, Mr. McDivitt. Let's get to a fun one here this morning. I'm interested to hear the answer. Citizen William checked in through the email, and his question is it legal for Come and Go to require my ID to be verified and scanned every time I purchase cigarettes? I understand the effort to keep minors from buying cigarettes, but I'm a 60-year-old man, and the information that is brought up on the scan is personal. I feel this is a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights to be free from illegal search and seizure. Interesting. It appears to give some clerks power and authority that they also abuse. Any advice on that? I understand they're a private company, but this seems excessive. Where's the line there?
Okay, so this is interesting. And William, I understand your frustration with this in the sense that you're 60 years old. I'm guessing that you're visibly 60 years old. I mean, I think that's what's irritating you. You don't look like you're 17.
He's a smoker, so he probably looks 70.
Yeah. And so it just seems, it gets in your craw that every time you're trying to buy a pack of cigarettes, which you've probably been buying for the last 40 years of your life.
Probably same Come and Go every single day or every other day or whatever.
Scanning your ID. So a couple of things. Number one, it's not a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. That Fourth Amendment applies to unreasonable illegal searches from the government, illegal search and seizure. It's to provide citizens the right to be free from the government coming in and just unilaterally coming into their home illegally. The police, governmental entities, but Come and Go asking for your ID, which, by the way, they're required to do in the sense that they cannot sell tobacco products to anybody who's underage. They're required to verify the age of people. Now, I think it's the same when you're buying alcohol, when you go to a bar, when you go to a liquor store, when you go to a restaurant, you go to a fancy restaurant, you order a glass of wine.
You're not a regular?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's an element in this too, which is that it's not actually illegal for an adult to buy the alcohol. It's not illegal for a restaurant to sell the alcohol to an adult. It's illegal for them to sell it to somebody who's underage. To protect themselves, they are verifying the ID. They're verifying the age. Now, for you, Arguably, you could be verified because they know you. They've seen it once. But so I don't know if it's the same clerk. That sounds that clerk is just very they're either a jerk or they're very paranoid about their job. Because
or being, the way it is, the rotation and people coming and going from jobs like that.
Well, that's the
might
thing.
not be the same guy every single day,
Come and Go is going to have a corporate policy that's going to require that they do this. And so these clerks do not want to lose their jobs. They know that they're on their cameras inside there. They're required to verify the ID of anybody. And if they're caught selling to somebody without checking the ID, regardless of how visibly old that person looks, they could get in trouble. They could lose their jobs. Now, I will tell you this: the information that comes up on a scan of a driver's license is pretty much the same information that is visible on the front of a driver's license. And so, what the whole point of scanning the driver's license is to verify that the information on the front is accurate. It's a lot easier, and I'm not saying it is easy, but it is easier to try to finagle and scratch away an age on the front of a license or a name, kind of doctor your license to make it look like you're older than you really are. When you scan that in, though, digitally, it's going to show what was originally on the front of that driver's license. Now, Come and Go is then, I think the real question is, what are they doing? And I'm not saying anything about Come and Go or any other company. I don't know what the scanning policies are here. What are they doing with that digital information when they scan it in? Is it being stored, or is it just flashing up on a screen and then just disappearing after 30 seconds? They have a separate issue, which is making sure that they treat that information with care, and that they don't have any policies in place that could allow that information to be then stolen or leaked or get put in the wrong hands. Nothing nefarious is happening with that information. I have no indication that that's what they're doing.
I know it's a grocery store, and they know me. I've been living in the neighborhood for 20 years now, but anytime if I get a six-pack of beer or whatever they always have to give an ID because they have to scan it actually before they approve the sale. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Their point-of-sales machines or whatever, their system may not allow a barcode transaction. Then you scan the beer, you need to then have a commensurate scan of an ID, and that's a great point, Ross. So, I guess the other thing you could do if it bothers you that much, there may be some other place. I know
that was my thing. Is find a non-corporate entity.
Yeah, that's going to sell you some
a local
cigarettes.
Smoke shop or something like that. They're going to know you'll walk in. They'll say, "Hey, Norm or William, it's your pack of Marlboro Reds, Willie.
You want the 110s?"
Yeah. So just find some place you can be friendly. Maybe that's it. Now, on the same front too, when I purchase sex toys, they ask me for my ID. They take a picture of me and I have to sign a waiver not to hurt anyone. What's that all about?
Well, it's because of the toys you're buying.
Sir, what are you doing with this?
They look like dangerous weapons, Ross. All right.
Okay, so if I just dial it back a little bit, my checkout process will be a little bit easier.
They'll probably need to be smaller, with fewer spikes coming out of them, but that's fine.
All right. See, the stuff we learn here every single day. It's amazing.
Glad my kids are not listening. They're in school. Thanks, Ross.
No problem. That was always. I've been writing. Look at that. I wrote that one down earlier. Sex toys. Okay, let's get to it. Rockline's still open. We got room for maybe one more person.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
To get specific, but let's say you wanted some stuff that's not technically approved, ivermectin or something like that for treatment of COVID. If they say no, it's not approved, is that their problem?
I doubt it.
Yeah, right?
I mean, keep in mind.
You couldn't show up and say, I think I got cancer, you got to feed me milkshakes.
Okay, or how about this? I mean, let's go to the extremes. I mean, you can't force a hospital to provide an abortion. You can't ask a hospital to do end-of-life, assisted suicide.
Good point.
Right. I mean, there are some providers that are going to do one or the other. Some of them, some states, one might be more legal than the other. So the hospitals aren't just bound to just provide the kind of medical care that you want. They're bound to provide what is reasonable and medically necessary and what is appropriate for the standard of care. What is the appropriate standard of care given a circumstance? Now, there may be a treatment that has been prescribed to you by a medical provider, and you may have some success in trying to get that treatment then provided to you if it's been
already prescribed by your doctor.
But in a situation where you just go and you say, like, I read about this on the internet, this is the kind of treatment I want, you're not going to really be able to force the hospital's hands if they don't provide that kind of treatment. I mean, so it's kind of tricky.
All right, we got the question about the Philips CPAP recall. We'll wrap it up with that one here in a minute. Keep in mind, too, we're going to be out of time here for anyone on the air. But you can always email the questions, and we'll make sure we conquer those here next month when Dave joins us. It's the third Wednesday of every month. Mostly. We get to...
sometimes it's not.
George here this morning. Interesting, we don't have a whole lot of time, but basically, George, 27 years ago, you had a DUI. What state was the DUI in?
Here in Colorado.
In Colorado, and you still cannot get your license back. How does that even work? What do they tell you?
Well, here's what it is. I'm not on probation or nothing like that. I've been pulled over 4 or 5 times. They tell me I'm driving without a license. I go to the DRV, try to get my license, they keep denying me it.
And based on what? They just say because you're flagged? Maybe you didn't pay some fines?
I don't know.
Do you have unpaid fines?
Unpaid child support?
No. I'm happily married for 27 years, too.
Wow.
This happened right after my dad died.
All right. And how was it disposed of at the time, the DUI? I mean, you got a ticket? Were you arrested? Did you serve in jail?
Probation? What?
Yeah, I was arrested. I was in probation, everything.
How long were you on probation for?
All my time. I did all my time for the DUI. I did all my time, did everything. I even did all my alcohol classes, but the DMV keeps telling me no.
Is it just some kind of paperwork error here? David, you've heard anything like this?
There's typically an appeals process or something like that. You can get a hearing with the DMV when it comes to license revocation. So
I just can't imagine that some of the DMV say, you're still suspended for your DUI from, what would it be, 1996 or something like that?
Before that.
I'll tell you what, this is an interesting call, George. I think you got some digging to do. You're going to probably have to do some digging yourself on this to just try to find out what happened with the case. Was it prosecuted? I mean, it was here. You said it was in Colorado Springs.
Was it here in Colorado Springs or where in Colorado?
Here in Pueblo.
Is it Pueblo? Okay. All right. So the 10th Judicial District. You can get over there and try to find out the case most likely was closed 26 years ago. I don't know.
There's got to be some kind of record showing he's done, though, right?
Because then you'd want to bring that information and then file for a hearing with the DMV. If you just go on the DMV's website, there are a lot of resources on there to help you find out who to contact, how to start this process of getting in touch with somebody. So you're not just going up to the counter, taking a ticket, going up to the counter and then waiting. It could be you're going to still have to do that. But I just don't understand why. There's something lingering. There's something else
George,
out there.
Just on a personal note, did you ever have sex with the guy who runs the Pueblo DMV's wife? Someone's got a vendetta against poor Georgie here. He had to have slept with some guy's wife or something. He's like, "You will never drive again, George. Ooh, you slept with my wife, you dirty dog." It's amazing. So where does he go? What do you think?
Well, I think you start with the DMV. You've got to start there and find out. See if you can. You're just going to need to get in front of somebody who can tell you why.
Let me see your boss.
Why it's still suspended.
Wow, George. You got some work to do, son. You know what? You promised that you'll let us know what you find out, all right?
George, there are lawyers who can help you navigate this, too. I mean, as far as representing you in a DMV proceeding. But I think there's a lot you can do by yourself to just get some questions answered.
A little bit of work, you're going to find something that's going to prove you good to go there, George. It's going to take some work. So do the next...
Well, like I said, I'm done with my probation and everything. I've actually been pulled over, and they just written me a ticket for driving without a license.
George, try to get this fixed, because if you get in a car crash and you're responsible and you're driving without a license,
it's how people's lives just turn into a big
hard. I mean, how are you insured then when you drive?
My wife.
Yeah. I mean, that could be an issue. Then she's allowing somebody who is the insurance probably won't cover somebody who doesn't have a valid driver's license.
I'd start with an email to the DMV saying, marked as urgent, and say, "Hey, man, I've talked to various employees, and nothing happens. This is bigger than just pulling a ticket and going to the front of the line." But keep us in the loop, George. We'll let us know where this one goes. All right.
All right, I will.
All right, buddy. Good luck. Man, no easy answers. We learn pretty much every single week.
Well, these are some interesting situations people find themselves in. Yeah.
All right, where's our last one here? Okay, so my CPAP machine was part of a recall for Philips. Didn't have a CPAP for 6 months due to COVID and supply issues. Am I entitled to any financial settlement? Also, now that I have my new machine, they want me to send my old one back. Should I keep that just in case I'm involved in some kind of lawsuit?
All right. So there are 1,000 questions I have for this person. So there are lawsuits going on right now against Phillips for primarily medical issues caused by particulates that are breaking out.
Some particles that could break loose from the machine, and they were cancerous.
Causing cancer, liver, kidney, lung cancer, colon cancer, led to stroke, respiratory failure, liver disease. I mean, just a whole litany of really, really bad things. So I don't know if this person's got those physical injuries. If so, you've got a strong case for joining the litigation.
Well, if not now? I mean, obviously this is something that could impact your health in the future. So interesting about keeping the CPAP machine. I mean, obviously, I'm the Phillips Corporation. I want all those machines back so I can burn them. So there's no proof that they were.
And they can't do that now.
Oh, really?
They're required by law now to hold on to those.
Okay.
And so there's as evidence. Yeah, there's a program in place here.
I always paint the most evil picture I can when it comes to corporate America. And I was like, man, if I was the head of that, I'd be like, yeah, give me those machines back. I'll destroy them and no one will know anything at all.
Well, listen, I think at one point, and I'm not saying in this case, but I mean, you can imagine there's an attitude out there on some of this stuff. But right now...
now, what about just, even if he's not sick now, just the fact that, I don't know how long he was using the machine, but let's say he was using it for a year or two before they put the recall out. It's troublesome, right? You got to be somewhat alarmed going, well, what does this mean to my future health? So you can... is it something you just sit on or something now you get involved in?
I think get involved in it. You can sign, there's a tolling agreement so that you can at least sign some paperwork saying, like, I want to be involved in a lawsuit, but I know I may not have some of these medical conditions yet, but I did have the CPAP device, and you can send it in. You can elect to send it in to Phillips and have it held in evidence and not repaired. Or you can have it repaired and then returned back to you. But it sounds like in his situation, he's already got a new device now.
Yeah, I think my old man was part of that. No, he got a brand new machine. I guess they just took all the old ones back and then revamped it. But it took a while because, it was hard to just get stuff made in the whole pandemic. So people had these things for a while.
You go on Amazon, you can find some of these slightly used, the recall. Do you want the one that caused cancer in the prior person, or do you want just a brand new fresh one? I'll take a brand new fresh one.
Right. It's discounted, though. Huge discounts on the cancer-causing ones.
I'll tell you what, this is really serious stuff. I mean, this is some of the stuff we get involved with. And
right, and this happens all the time when it comes to medical stuff. Not just machinery, but when it comes to pills, sometimes they're like, suddenly something that someone been taking for years. So, whoa, we just learned out, it's cancerous.
And you know what they do is they factor in the cost of that litigation. They said, look, we're going to have X amount of people who probably have adverse reactions. They might die. This is what here's the hard cost to us of that happening.
Cost of doing business?
But yet, here's how much we can make if we sell these to the broader public. I mean, you can get very cynical very quickly with a lot of substantiated evidence.
It reminds me of Ed Norton's character in Fight Club. He was like a risk assessment, and they basically just put pen to paper and decided whether or not a recall was worth the money or letting people die and settle lawsuits that way. And that is, unfortunately, a thing when it comes to corporate America. I still shuddered mid-pandemic when, I forget who it was, the national head of commerce called people stock, said the stock are dying to get back to work.
Oh, God.
I was like, that's how they refer to us behind closed doors. We're just cattle. We're just the stock. The stock is angry. It's like, oh, man, I've never felt more insulted in my life, honestly.
Oh, really, Ross? That was the most insulted you felt?
Insulting. That guy, the stock wants to go back to work. No, you want us to go back to work so you can have our tax money.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.